Networking is probably the best way to get clients for your photography business. So all this talk of connecting with people and trying to build relationships, essentially what it comes down to is just become friends with as many people as you can in your industry, and they're probably gonna send you work. And the bigger that database of people is, the more opportunities are gonna come your way because more people are just funneling clients to you. So let's get into how networking works and how you should approach doing it. The first thing you're gonna want to do is get your branding in place. Figure out what your brand identity is, who you're serving, the type of weddings that you want, your style, all of that kind of stuff. Because when you figure that out, it's gonna dictate who you're connecting with. So if you really want to shoot barn style, country style weddings, you're not gonna wanna talk with the high-end, high fashion planners and florists and stuff like that. You're gonna wanna talk with the type of planners who do the style of weddings that you want to do. Figuring out that brand identity is also gonna help you know how to structure your website and your social media posts and all of that kind of stuff, which is kind of the next step. You're gonna wanna put together a professional website and social media that really speak to the things that you're about. You want your portfolio to show that you can shoot barn style weddings, country style weddings. You want your social media to be a reflection of your website. And you want all the copy on your website and the captions on your social media posts. You want all of those things to speak to that brand identity that you're trying to create. If you are wanting to shoot those country style weddings, but all of your work in your portfolio is high fashion and flashy and that kind of thing, that doesn't speak to the country style weddings at all. So there's gonna be a disconnect between the portfolio that you're showing people and the brand that you want people to think of you as. You're telling people that you're a country style wedding photographer, but your portfolio and maybe some of your branding is telling people I'm a high fashion wedding photographer. And those two things don't really mix. So you need to make sure that your portfolio and what you say about yourself are meshing well together. You need to make sure that your appearance, the way that you dress and the way that you act and talk in person matches your branding. Flipping the analogy a little bit, if you want to be a high-end luxury wedding photographer, but every wedding you show up to, you're wearing black jeans and like a dark t-shirt, that does not speak to a luxury brand at all. You're essentially telling people by what you're wearing and the way that you're acting that you're not in the luxury space. Your branding should back up your in-person claims. Once you have your brand identity in place, I would say the number one thing is just to create a great experience. Be a pleasure to work with, and that will take you so far. And going along with that, if you go above and beyond whenever possible, that's gonna come off so great to people. I know for myself, if I'm hiring somebody to come and, I don't know, fix my roof, if that person is going above and beyond to make my roof fixing experience the best that it can be, I'm gonna wanna recommend them way more than somebody who just came out, did the job, and went back home. I'm not saying you need to bend over backwards to make sure people are as happy as they possibly can be, but even just little things that you can do to make people's experience with you a little bit better, that goes a long way. Honestly, even something like being with the wedding planner on the wedding day and noticing that it's pretty hot outside, I bet she could use a bottle of water, and just running over to the drink station, grabbing her a bottle of water and bringing it over to her. That can go a long way. Now, one of the easiest ways to get into networking as a wedding photographer is to network at weddings. So prior to a wedding, connect with your couple and try to get all of the vendors that are gonna be at that wedding, try to get all of their information. When you're at the wedding and you're going through and you're photographing all like the little details and stuff, take a second, go and ask the planner what their favorite decoration is or what their favorite table setup is. You can also ask the florist about their favorite floral setup or floral install or anything like that. Asking those vendors these type of questions is essentially telling them, hey, I'm not just doing the bare minimum here and just documenting what I see. I'm going above and beyond. I'm gonna ask you, what do you actually care about? What is your favorite piece here? And let me document that. Let me capture that to the best that I can. The hope would be that they feel more seen. They feel like you actually care about the work that they're doing as well. And this isn't just a ploy to get more business from them. If the planner really does have a favorite table setup or the florist has a favorite floral install, I want to capture that because they probably put more work into that piece than anything else. I think so many photographers and even videographers just kind of forget to send out the full gallery to all the wedding vendors. And by doing that, you're just leaving opportunities on the table. That's an easy way to make that connection with those other vendors, especially the planner, the florist, and the venue. And on top of just tagging them in the post, I'm also trying to add as many of those vendors as collaborators as I possibly can. I've noticed that in general, whenever I collaborate on a post, it usually gets more traction, more views, more likes, more whatever, than a post that I just post to my own platform. And then once the wedding is done and I have my sneak peek photos edited and I'm ready to send those out to the client, I will of course send it out to the client, but I will also take those sneak peek photos and send them out to all the vendors, the planner, the venue, the florist, anybody who's had like a significant impact on the wedding day that's going to be represented in those sneak peek photos, and make sure to send it out to all those people as well. For one, that's just a nice thing to do, and you're showing that vendor team that you care about them and that you want them to have photos to put on their portfolio as well. But two, hopefully with those sneak peek photos, they're going to post those to Instagram and they're going to tag you in it. Hopefully you get a little bit of business from that. Who knows? Maybe you won't, maybe you will. The next method for networking is what I'm going to call free gigs and collaboration opportunities. These are things like styled shoots that a planner may put on where they say, hey, I'm hosting this little styled shoot. I would love for you to come be the photographer, but I can't pay you. All I can give you is the opportunity to connect with these other vendors that are putting on this shoot and to use the photos for your own portfolio. And I would say take as many of these opportunities as you possibly can, as long as they align with your brand identity. I think you kind of get two things out of these gigs. For one, it allows you the opportunity to work with new vendors that you may have not worked with before, whether that's florists or planners or even just other photographers. And what you get to do with that is prove yourself to these people, especially like if it's a planner who's hosting the styled shoot. If you can show up to that styled shoot and shoot an amazing gallery of photos and deliver those, that's going to speak volumes about you. And hopefully that's going to show that planner like, hey, this is a reliable person. I should bring this person on to other weddings or to other projects. Those connections with other photographers can also turn into referrals down the road. If that other photographer gets an inquiry from a client, but they're busy on that day, and you've made a really good connection with them, they may say to that client, hey, I'm not available on that day, but I know this other photographer that I've worked with in the past. They're really great. You should go talk with them. My third category is going to be in-person events and workshops. These are things like networking events where it's literally just a group of people getting together to network with each other, or things like workshops or paid styled shoots that you're paying to go to in order to get education or portfolio pieces or just networking. Just like the previous section, this is a great opportunity to network with other photographers. Networking events in general are just a really great way to meet a bunch of people all at once. And the reason that I think this is so important is, well, one, you just get access to a ton of people. That alone is very valuable because the alternative is that you're going through Instagram and just trying to connect with people that way, which is a lot harder than just walking into a room that's full of people that you want to connect with. And generally at these networking events, you're getting access to a bunch of different types of vendors, florists, planners, other photographers, people who run photo booths, DJs, venue owners, a whole slew of people. Face-to-face connection is way more powerful than connecting through a DM or through a comment on Instagram. Being able to show your personality to somebody is so much more valuable. You can actually create like a meaningful connection, whereas connecting online is way harder. So let's go over some general networking tips, so that way when you do end up at one of those networking events, you have a game plan. For one, do as much prep beforehand as you possibly can. And what I mean by that is do your best to figure out who's gonna be at that event. If you know that there's gonna be 3 different wedding planners there that you really want to connect with, that's going to give you a significant advantage. So then when you're there at the event, you can walk up to that person and say, oh, hey, Kathy, I just saw your post on Instagram last week about that wedding you did in Boston. It was amazing. I loved the floral design that you had there, the stone statues that were there, super cool. And you immediately have a connection point that you can start talking about. Versus if you go in completely blind, you're going through and you're like, hello, who are you? What do you do? Which is fine, but if you can come in prepared beforehand, that's going to impress people. That's going to make people go, oh, this guy knows what's up. This guy knows who I am. A couple other things. I would say one, try to wear something that's gonna stand out. At weddings, most of the vendors are just wearing all black all the time. So if you show up to a wedding networking event and you're also wearing all black, you're just gonna kind of blend in. But if you wear something that stands out a little bit more, but that's still aligned with your brand identity, you're gonna stand out a lot more. Whether that's a really bold color, or it's just a dress or a suit or whatever that has a really cool design to it. Another one, just be humble. Walk in and I guess kind of assume that you are the least important person in that room. Not that you have to act like you're the least important person in the room, but what I'm saying is don't go in and assume that you are better than somebody else. Talk to everyone honestly like they're at a higher level than you and they're doing more important things than you're doing. It's just kind of a good way to make other people feel better about themselves. And if you walk into a room and you don't know who people are, you very well may be the least important person in that room. So who knows? And the final one, I would say, don't feel like you need to walk up to somebody and immediately start talking about the services that you offer or what type of wedding vendor you are or your pricing. I would say wait until that comes up a bit more naturally in the conversation. So what that may look like is don't go up to somebody and say, hey, I'm Josh, I'm a wedding photographer. Let me talk to you about my packages and how we can collaborate and work together at weddings. Instead, maybe come up and just start talking about a post that you've seen of theirs on Instagram lately, or ask them if they've been on any trips lately. Honestly, what I oftentimes do is just kind of ignore the fact that we are at a networking event and just start asking them general questions like you're talking with a friend. And then as the conversation goes on, it'll most likely come back to what type of work do you do? What kind of vendor are you in the wedding space? How could we maybe work together? But don't make that the first thing that you talk about because it just kind of comes off as you wanting their business. But enough about networking events and workshops and in-person stuff. Let's talk about online networking. The first thing that I would do if I was starting my online networking journey is I would go onto Instagram and find every single wedding planner, florist, venue owner, and other wedding photography in my area and follow all of them. I basically want to just get connected with as many other people in the wedding industry as I possibly can. From there, I would try to find maybe 15 planners that I really want to connect with. I say planners because for the most part, planners are going to be the ones that give you the most business, venue owners probably second, but I would start with planners because they've got their hands over all the wedding things. So I would find probably about 15 planners and spend the next 3 to 6 weeks interacting with them in some way on social media, whether that's commenting on posts, on stories, on reels, whatever it is, interacting with them on social media. And I'm not asking for any kind of business during this time. I'm really not even DMing them. If I do send them a DM, what I'm probably gonna say is, hey, I saw that photo you posted 2 days ago. What an amazing wedding that was. I really loved XYZ. Just leave it at that. I'm not asking for business. I'm not asking to connect with them for anything. I'm not asking them for anything at all. I'm just hyping them up basically. And when I'm interacting with those posts or those stories or whatever it is, I would say try to comment on something specific about the photo. What you're ideally trying to avoid doing is putting in a little comment that says, oh my gosh, this is amazing. It's not a bad comment to put on there, but it just doesn't speak very deeply to the content of the post that they posted. Ideally, try to pinpoint something in the post that you really like and comment on that thing. After those 3 to 6 weeks of just generally commenting on people's posts and staying connected with them and building a little bit of a online relationship, at that point, then I would start to DM or send an email to them. And the number one thing that I would say is know people's actual names. So if you're going to message a planner, don't message the planner and use their business name. If their business name is True Love Memories, you don't want to message them and say, hey, True Love Memories, I really liked blah, 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 and I would love to connect with you. You want to dig a little bit deeper, go into their website, scroll through some of their posts, try to figure out what that person's actual name is. Because if you DM them or email them and say, hey, Kathy, I really love so-and-so and so, and I would love to connect with you, that's gonna be a whole lot more meaningful than somebody who comes in and says, hey, True Love Memories, I really love blah, 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 blah. If you know their actual name, that's proving to them that you actually care enough to research them and to figure out who they are and what their business is about. And even going a little bit above and beyond in that regard, every once in a while, send a DM congratulating them on something that they posted about rather than just leaving a comment on that post. It's a little bit more personal than just commenting, and it shows that you're still invested in them. I truly do believe that networking is the best way to get more clients in your industry. I started my networking journey last year. I haven't even been doing it that hardcore, but I've already seen a significant increase in inquiries and bookings for my wedding photography business. And I feel like all the stuff that I've been talking about with networking, it could come across like I'm just saying you need to build these connections with people so you can get their business, as if it's some sort of like malicious way to trick people into liking you to get them to send you clients. That's not what I'm saying. So all this talk of connecting with people and trying to build relationships, essentially what it comes down to is just become friends with as many people as you can in your industry, and they're probably gonna send you work. Be a pleasure to work with. I feel like that is the biggest thing. Just be so nice to work with, so easy to work with, and so flexible. And then number 2 is probably make sure that your brand identity matches everything. Your portfolio, what you wear, the way that you talk, the way that you email people, it should all be cohesive and speak to each other. If you've had success with networking in your own business, I'd love to see your story down in the comments below. So leave a comment, tell me about how networking has worked for you, or if you've tried networking and it has not worked for you, I'd also love to hear about that. All right, bye.